The massive ships appeared without warning in Earth's orbit one quiet Tuesday morning in 2157. Their sleek, crystalline hulls reflected sunlight across the planet, visible even in daylight. People everywhere stopped and stared at the sky. Some ran in fear, others recorded videos on their phones, but everyone felt the same thing. Everything was about to change. Jinho Park gripped the edge of his desk as he watched the main view screen in the Global Communications Center. As director, he had seen many crises, but nothing like this. His knuckles turned white as the alien transmission began. The being that appeared had blue skin that shimmered like water and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. It wore what looked like armor made of flowing metal. "I am Ambassador Taiwan of the Galactic Hegemony." The alien spoke in perfect English. "Emperor Do-Yun extends his greetings to your world." Jinho felt a chill despite the warm room. The words were polite, but the message was clear. Earth was being claimed. "The Emperor invites Earth to join our glorious empire as a protected territory," continued the alien. "This is a great honor. Over 300 worlds enjoy our protection." The terms came next. Earth would surrender all control of its governments, provide resources as required, accept imperial officials as rulers, and contribute workers for imperial projects. They had 3 Earth days to agree. "Resistance is not advised," said Taiwan mildly, "but the choice is yours." The transmission ended. Jinho looked around at his team, all wearing expressions of shock and fear. "Get me the Security Council," he said quietly. "Now." In her remote research station high in the Himalayas, Hai-Jin Lee watched the same broadcast. Unlike most viewers, she wasn't just afraid, she was analyzing. The former Special Forces commander had spent years studying military tactics before leaving to work on clean energy projects. "Pause," she told her computer. The screen froze on an image of the alien fleet. "Zoom on Sector 3. Hai-Jin narrowed her eyes. The ships were positioned in a standard offensive formation, but she noticed gaps in their coverage. Their weapons systems seemed to favor forward firing arcs, leaving blind spots at specific angles. Most importantly, they weren't positioned like a force expecting resistance. They thought Earth would just give up. Her phone rang. It was her old commander, General Kang. "You saw it?" he asked without greeting. "Yes, they have weaknesses," Hai-Jin replied. "Their formation is sloppy. They don't respect us as a threat." The world leaders are meeting now. Most are talking surrender. Hai-Jin stood up, her decision made. "I'm coming in." She packed quickly, grabbing only essentials and her research tablet. As she prepared to leave her peaceful mountain home, she took one last look at the photo of her family. Her parents had died in the resource wars of the 2130s. Her brother was stationed on the moon colony. She had nothing left to lose. 6 hours later, Hai-Jin stood in a secure underground facility where world leaders had gathered virtually. The room was filled with military officers and government officials, all looking desperate. "The alien ships outnumber our space forces 10 to 1, said Defense Minister Seo. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. We have no choice but to accept their terms," said President Wu. "If we fight, millions will die." Hai-Jin stepped forward. "With respect, we do have a choice." All eyes turned to her. General Kang nodded for her to continue. "I've analyzed their fleet positioning," she said, connecting her tablet to the main display. "Look here and here. They have blind spots in their sensor coverage. Their ships are designed for fighting other advanced vessels, not our supposedly primitive technology." She pulled up more data. "Their communication systems operate on frequencies we can disrupt, and most importantly, they're not expecting us to fight." "Who are you?" demanded President Wu. "This is Commander Hai-Jin Lee," said General Kang. "Former head of our Special Tactics Division, one of our best strategic minds before she left service." "Left service? So she's a civilian?" asked another official dismissively. "I left because I was tired of war," said Hai-Jin calmly. "But I remember how to fight, and I know how smaller forces can defeat larger ones." She displayed her plan. It was risky, but it targeted the aliens' weaknesses and used Earth's strengths. submarines that could launch missiles from unexpected vectors, atmospheric fighters that could maneuver in ways space-based craft couldn't, and nuclear weapons modified to create electromagnetic pulses. "This is suicide," said Defense Minister Seo. "Surrender is suicide," replied Hai-Jin. "They don't want partners. They want slaves and resources." The debate raged for hours. As dawn approached, the vote was taken. Earth would surrender. Hai-Jin walked out of the facility, heart heavy but determined. If the governments wouldn't fight, she would find those who would. She accessed her old military contacts through an encrypted channel. "This is Hai-Jin Lee. I need people who aren't ready to surrender our world. The aliens can be beaten. Who's with me?" Hai-Jin's message spread through military channels like wildfire. Within 6 hours, her secure communication line was flooded with responses from soldiers, pilots, and engineers who weren't ready to surrender Earth without a fight. "They're sending a helicopter for you," said Captain Min-ho over the encrypted line. "Be ready in 10 minutes. True to his word, a stealth helicopter appeared over the mountain ridge, landing on the small pad outside her research station. Hai-Jin climbed aboard with just her tablet and a small bag of personal items. "Commander Lee." The pilot nodded respectfully as she buckled in. "Good to have you back." The helicopter flew low through mountain valleys to avoid detection by the Imperial ships hovering in Earth's atmosphere. After 3 hours of tense flying, they descended into a hidden entrance carved into the side of the Andes Mountains. Inside the vast underground complex, hundreds of military personnel from various nations worked frantically. This was the hastily established Earth Defense Coalition headquarters, created without the knowledge or approval of the surrendering governments. General Ji-woo, a tall woman with steady eyes and gray-streaked hair, met Hai-Jin at the entrance to the command center. "You've caused quite a stir, Commander," she said, offering her hand. "Half the world's special forces want to follow you rather than their official orders." "I'm not trying to start a mutiny," Hai-Jin replied. "I'm trying to save our planet." The command center was a large circular room filled with screens showing the positions of Imperial ships and Earth's remaining military assets. Many of the screens flashed red warnings as more governments officially surrendered. Hai-Jin walked to the central holographic display and inserted her tablet. A 3-dimensional image of the Imperial fleet appeared, with specific sections highlighted. "There, ships have a vulnerability in their lateral sensor arrays," she explained, zooming in on glowing red sections. "They create a blind spot here and here, and their formation suggests they've never faced serious space-based resistance." General Ji-woo looked skeptical. "What can we possibly do against technology centuries beyond ours?" "Use what they don't expect," Hai-Jin replied. "Our primitive nuclear missiles repurposed as EMPs, our submarines, our atmosphere itself." She laid out her plan. Earth's nuclear submarines, nearly invisible to Imperial sensors, would launch specially modified missiles not at the alien ships directly, but to detonate as EMPs in their blind spots. Meanwhile, atmosphere-capable fighters would attack from below, using Earth's gravity and air to maneuver in ways the space-bound Imperial ships couldn't match. "It's still a suicide mission," said Admiral Jae-sung, shaking his head. "No, it's a testing mission," Hai-Jin corrected. "We need to capture one of their scout ships intact, study their technology, find more weaknesses." In orbit around Earth, Emperor Do-yun received word of small pockets of resistance forming, despite the official surrender of Earth's major governments. "These humans are more troublesome than expected," he told his war council. "I want this resistance crushed immediately." He dispatched his elite commander, Sung-min, with explicit orders. "Make an example of anyone who resists. Show no mercy." 24 hours later, Hai-Jin led a small team of 12 soldiers in 3 stealth aircraft. Their target, an Imperial scout ship that had descended into the atmosphere to map Earth's military installations. "Remember, we need it intact," Hai-Jin reminded her team as they approached from the scout ship's blind spot. "Aim for the external sensor arrays only." The attack was swift and precise. The modified EMP weapons temporarily disabled the scout ship's systems. Before the Imperial crew could restore power, Hai-Jin's team had attached magnetic clamps to the hull and cut their way inside. The firefight was brief but intense. 2 of Hai-Jin's soldiers were killed by the aliens' energy weapons, but they secured the ship and captured the 3-member crew, including a high-ranking officer named Jun Seo. "Get this ship to the secondary base," Hai-Jin ordered as they restrained the alien prisoners. "Our engineers need to study everything before they can track us." The Imperial officer, Jun Seo, watched Hai-Jin with all 4 of his eyes. "You think this small victory means anything?" he asked in perfect English. "The Emperor will burn your world to ash for this defiance." "Why are you really here?" Hai-Jin asked. "Protected territories don't need this kind of military presence." Jun Seo remained silent, but one of the other captives, younger and clearly frightened, spoke up. "For the harvesting, this world has ideal genetic diversity." "Silence," Jun Seo hissed. Hai-Jin turned to the younger alien. "What harvesting?" Through careful questioning and analysis of the ship's database, the terrible truth emerged. The Galactic hegemony systematically harvested conquered worlds for resources and genetic material. Humans would be used for labor, experimentation, and as biological resources. When word reached Emperor Doyun that humans had captured an Imperial vessel and officer, his rage was terrible to behold. He ordered immediate bombardment of Earth's major cities as punishment. As Imperial warships began their attack, Hai-Jin accessed Earth's remaining communication satellites. Her face appeared on screens around the world and throughout the solar system. "They're not here to protect us," she announced, her voice steady despite the horror unfolding below. "They're here to farm us like animals. But we can fight back. We can win. Join us." In the command center, General Jiwoo watched as thousands of new signals appeared, people responding to Hai-Jin's call. "I think you just started a revolution," she said quietly. Hai-Jin nodded grimly. "No, the Emperor started it. I'm just making sure we survive it." As Imperial warships bombarded Earth's major cities, Hai-Jin's team raced to escape the planet. They had transferred the captured Imperial officer Jun Seo and the crucial alien technology to their modified shuttle. The craft shuddered as they pushed through the atmosphere, dodging Imperial patrol ships. "They're tracking us," called the pilot Kyung-ho, his hands dancing over the controls. "3 fighters on our tail." Hai-Jin strapped herself into the co-pilot seat. "Take us into the debris field," she ordered, pointing to the mass of old satellites and space junk that orbited Earth. "Their ships are too big and fast to maneuver well there." The gamble paid off. The Imperial fighters, designed for open space combat, couldn't navigate the tightly packed debris without damaging their hulls. After 20 tense minutes, Hai-Jin's shuttle broke free and disappeared into the darkness of space, setting course for the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. 2 days later, they arrived at their destination, an abandoned mining facility, hidden inside a large asteroid. Other resistance fighters had already reached the base, bringing whatever weapons and supplies they could salvage. "Home sweet home," muttered Eunji, their systems expert, as they docked. "At least until the Emperor finds us." Inside the asteroid, Hai-Jin established a command center. Messages from Earth arrived hourly. Some cities had fallen completely, while others maintained resistance pockets. The global situation was grim but not hopeless. Hai-Jin focused on their most valuable prize, the captured Imperial ship. While engineers studied its weapons and propulsion systems, Eunji made an unexpected discovery. "Commander, you need to see this," she called from the lab section they had set up. Hai-Jin found Eunji sitting at the alien ship's control interface, her fingers lightly touching what appeared to be crystalline controls. "Watch this," said Eunji. She placed her hand flat on the panel. The ship's systems immediately lit up, displays showing information in the alien language. "I don't understand," said Hai-Jin. "Neither did I at first," Eunji explained. "But look what happens when one of our alien guests tries the same thing." She nodded to the guard, who brought forward one of the captured crew members. The alien placed his hand on the panel. The system responded, but much more slowly, with fewer displays activating. "Their technology is partially psycho-reactive," Eunji explained. "It responds to neural patterns, and for some reason, it responds better to human patterns than to their own. Hai-Jin's eyes widened. Are you saying their own ships work better for us than for them? Not all systems, Yunji clarified. But navigation, targeting, and communication interfaces? Yes. It's like the tech was made for us, not them. This discovery changed everything. Within days, Hai-Jin had volunteers testing their compatibility with different ship systems. Nearly all humans showed stronger connections to the Imperial technology than the aliens themselves. It doesn't make sense, said Jun Seo, the captured Imperial officer who now watched their experiments with obvious concern. That technology was developed by our greatest scientists. Maybe, Hai-Jin replied, but it works better with us. As word spread through the resistance, more people fled Earth to join them. Small Imperial ships were captured using their newfound advantage, quickly building a small but effective fleet. Meanwhile, on his flagship Eternal Dominion, Emperor Do-Yun received troubling reports. The human resistance grows stronger, reported Commander Sung-min. They've captured 7 of our scout ships and destroyed 3 patrol vessels. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. How? Their technology is primitive. They appear to have some unusual compatibility with our control systems, Sung-min admitted reluctantly. They can operate our ships with greater efficiency than our own pilots. The Emperor stood from his throne. This is unacceptable. I will deal with this myself. He turned to his advisors. Prepare the fleet. I will personally oversee Earth's pacification. Back at the asteroid base, Hai-Jin's resistance launched guerrilla attacks, using modified Imperial tech and human adaptability to strike quickly and escape before reinforcements arrived. They targeted supply lines and communication hubs, avoiding direct confrontation with larger ships. Other subjugated alien species began to notice. Secret messages arrived from resistance groups on other conquered worlds, asking for information about how humans fought back. We're becoming a symbol, Yunji told Hai-Jin one evening as they reviewed attack plans. No one has ever challenged the Emperor this effectively. Hai-Jin nodded thoughtfully. We need to use that. But first, we need more information. She turned to her team. I want to hit their central command ship. They must have a complete database of the hegemony there. The plan was dangerous but simple. Using their captured ships and human advantage with the control systems, they would approach the Imperial command ship disguised as returning scouts. A small team would infiltrate, copy the database, and escape before they were discovered. The mission went smoothly until the final moment. As Hai-Jin's team prepared to leave with the stolen data, alarms blared throughout the command ship. They've spotted us, yelled Taemin, their tech specialist. Security doors closing. Hai-Jin made a split-second decision. Everyone to the escape. Pods. I'll hold them off and follow. After ensuring her team escaped with the precious data, Hai-Jin fought her way to the last available pod. 3 Imperial guards blocked her path. She took them down with precise shots from her captured energy weapon, launched herself into the pod, and ejected just as troops swarmed the bay. As her pod raced away from the command ship, Hai-Jin checked the small data device in her pocket, the complete hegemony strategic database, locations of fleets, resources, and most importantly, other resistance movements. Now we can really fight back, she whispered, watching the Imperial ships grow smaller behind her as her pod headed toward the rendezvous point. Unknown to Hai-Jin, Emperor Do-Yun's flagship had just arrived in the solar system. The Emperor stood on his bridge, watching Earth on the view screen. Find me this human rebel, he commanded. I want to understand what makes her species so troublesome. The stolen Imperial database was worth every risk they had taken. As Hai-Jin and her team analyzed the information, they discovered something that changed everything. They weren't alone in their fight. Look at these reports, Yunji said, pointing to the screen. Resistance movements on at least 7 other conquered worlds. The Empire calls them ongoing pacification problems. Hai-Jin leaned closer. Can we contact them? If we use the Imperial communication network, yes, Yunji replied, but it's risky. Do it, Hai-Jin decided. We need allies. While Yunji worked on establishing secure communications with other resistance groups, reports came in that Emperor Do-Yun had arrived personally in the solar system. His massive flagship, larger than any ship they had encountered before, now orbited Earth. "He's obsessed with crushing us," said Kyung-ho as they watched footage of the Emperor's arrival speech. "He keeps talking about the human problem specifically." "Good," Hee-jin replied. "That means we're hurting them." 3 days later, Yunji succeeded in contacting the first resistance group, led by beings called the Yun. These tall, crystal-formed aliens had been under Imperial rule for over 50 Earth years. "Your resistance gives us hope," said their leader, a Yun called Haru, whose crystalline body shimmered as they spoke. "No species has ever fought back so effectively." Over the next 2 weeks, Hee-jin established contact with 6 more resistance groups. The amphibious Min, who could breathe in both water and air, the gaseous Yun-ki, who changed colors with their emotions, the 6-limbed Daesung master engineers, the tiny but brilliant Su-yun, who lived for centuries, the tree-like Gang, who communicated through sense, and the massive Ji-hu, whose strength was legendary. "We've all been fighting separately," Hee-jin told them during their first joint communication. "That's why we've been losing. The Emperor divides us, keeps us focused on our own worlds, our own problems." "What do you propose?" asked Dal, leader of the Daesung resistance. "An alliance," Hee-jin said simply. "All of us, working together. Sharing technology, information, resources." "Impossible," said gang leader Sun-yi. "We are too different. Our needs, our biology, our ways of fighting." "That's exactly our strength," Hee-jin countered. "The Empire expects uniformity. They don't understand adaptation or cooperation between different species. That's what humans excel at." After long discussions, the 7 resistance leaders agreed to meet in person. Hee-jin would travel to each of their hidden bases to establish trust and develop a joint strategy. The journey was dangerous. Hee-jin and a small team had to navigate through heavily patrolled Imperial space, using their captured ship and their human advantage with Imperial technology. Twice they nearly ran into Imperial patrols but managed to evade detection. Their first stop was the Yun homeworld, a beautiful planet with crystal formations rising like mountains. Haru welcomed them to the underground resistance base. "Your ship moved through Imperial space without detection," Haru observed. "How?" Hee-jin demonstrated how humans could interface with Imperial technology, showing the neural compatibility that gave them an edge. "This is remarkable," Haru said. "And you wish to share this knowledge freely?" "Knowledge is only powerful when shared," Hee-jin replied. Similar scenes played out on each world they visited. The Ji-hu showed them how to strengthen hull materials. The Daesung shared engine modifications that increased speed. The Su-yun offered biological adaptations that helped pilots withstand high-G maneuvers. With each visit, the alliance grew stronger. They began coordinating attacks across Imperial space, sharing intelligence and developing new hybrid technologies that combined the strengths of all their species. Meanwhile, Emperor Do-Yun grew increasingly frustrated with his inability to crush the human resistance. Reports of coordinated attacks across his empire infuriated him. "This human female has become the center of a galaxy-wide problem," he raged to his advisors. "Find her." When his intelligence officers finally reported that Hee-jin had been meeting with other resistance groups, the Emperor's fury was terrible to behold. "She is building an alliance against us," he realized. "This cannot be allowed to succeed." He summoned his war council. "The humans have proven more dangerous than any species we have encountered. They must be eliminated entirely as an example." To others, his chief scientist looked alarmed. "My Emperor, the genetic material from Earth is extremely valuable for our research. Total destruction would waste." "Silence!" The Emperor cut him off. "I would rather lose the resource than allow this rebellion to spread." He turned to his military commander. "Bring the planet killer to Earth. We will make an example of humanity that the galaxy will not forget." As the Imperial planet killer began its journey toward Earth, Hee-jin was returning from her diplomatic mission. The newly formed Free Systems Alliance had agreed on a bold plan to strike at the heart of the Empire. Her ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system and immediately received urgent communications from the asteroid base. "Commander," Yunji's voice came through, tense with fear. "The Emperor has ordered Earth's complete destruction. They're bringing in a planet-killer weapon." Heijin's blood ran cold. "How long do we have?" 3 days. Maybe less. "Alert the Alliance," Heijin ordered. "It's time for our first joint operation. We're not letting Earth die." The Alliance fleet assembled just beyond Pluto's orbit, hidden from Imperial sensors. Ships of various designs and origins gathered, each representing one of the 7 allied species. At the center was Heijin's command vessel, a hybrid craft combining technologies from all member worlds. "Final count: 147 ships," reported Yunji. "Not as many as we hoped, but each one carries our best innovations." Heijin studied the tactical display showing the massive Imperial fleet surrounding Earth. At its center hovered the Planet Killer, a moon-sized weapon designed to crack a planet's crust with focused gravitational waves. "The Emperor thinks size determines victory," Heijin told her gathered commanders. "He's wrong. Speed, surprise, and coordination will win this day." She outlined the plan. The Alliance fleet would split into 3 groups. The first would attack the Imperial supply ships, drawing attention away from Earth. The second would target the command ships controlling the main fleet. The third, smallest group, led by Heijin herself, would head directly for the Emperor's flagship. On Earth, resistance forces led by Suho prepared for ground assaults on Imperial control centers. They had spent weeks secretly distributing weapons and placing fighters in key positions. "All groups report ready," said Kyung-ho, now Heijin's second in command. "We can launch on your order." Heijin took a deep breath. "Send the signal to Earth teams. All ships prepare for lightspeed jump, execute pattern sunburst on my mark." The Alliance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the Imperial Armada, emerging in perfect formation. The sudden appearance of 147 ships where none had been seconds before threw the Imperial commanders into confusion. "All ships attack," Heijin ordered. The battle erupted across Earth's orbit. Alliance ships, smaller but faster and more maneuverable, darted between the larger Imperial vessels. Their hybrid weapons, combining technologies from 7 species, cut through Imperial shields in ways the enemy had never experienced. On Earth's surface, resistance fighters struck at Imperial control centers simultaneously. Streets that had been quiet under occupation suddenly filled with people fighting for their home. Emperor Do-yun watched the unexpected assault from his flagship bridge, his 4 eyes narrowed in fury. "How did they assemble such a fleet?" he demanded of his commanders. "Who dares?" The tactical officer's voice shook as he replied. "Sensors detect ships of multiple origin, Emperor. It appears to be a coordinated attack from several subject worlds." "Impossible!" the Emperor shouted. "Subject worlds do not cooperate." Just then, a smaller ship broke through the perimeter, heading directly for the flagship. The Emperor recognized the modified Imperial design. "The human," he said quietly. "She's coming here." Heijin's strike team docked with the Emperor's flagship during the height of battle. Using the chaos as cover, they fought their way through the corridors toward the command center. "Remember," Heijin told her team, "we need the Emperor alive if possible. He has to answer for his crimes against all our worlds." They faced heavy resistance. 2 of her team fell to Imperial guards, but they pressed on, using their superior understanding of Imperial technology to override security systems. When Heijin finally broke into the command center, she found it nearly empty except for the Emperor himself and his personal guard. "So this is the human who disrupts my empire," Emperor Do-yun said, turning from the battle display. Without his ceremonial armor, he looked smaller than Heijin had imagined. Frail even, with translucent skin showing signs of cellular degeneration. Heijin kept her weapon trained on him. "Order your forces to stand down. The planet killer is already disabled." "You think you've won?" The Emperor laughed bitterly. "You don't understand what's at stake." He waved a hand, and a holographic display appeared showing cellular structures breaking down. "My species is dying from genetic degradation. Each generation, our cells become less stable. We harvest other species seeking a cure. Without the Empire, we perish. He-Jin lowered her weapon slightly. You enslaved and murdered billions for this? Survival requires sacrifice, the Emperor said coldly. It requires cooperation, He-Jin countered. You could have asked for help, worked together with other species. Instead, you chose domination. And you would have helped your conquerors, he asked skeptically. We're helping the Yoon repair their atmospheric processors. The Min are teaching us aquatic farming. The Jihu protect our transport ships, He-Jin replied. Yes, we would have helped. That's the human way. We're stronger together than alone. She stepped forward, offering her hand. It's not too late. End this war. Join our alliance as equals. The Emperor stared at her extended hand. For a moment, He-Jin thought she saw consideration in his 4 eyes. Then they hardened. Never, he hissed, pulling a hidden weapon. He-Jin's reflexes, honed by months of combat, were faster. Her shot hit the Emperor's arm, sending his weapon clattering across the floor. You've lost, she said simply. 5 years later, Earth had become the diplomatic center of the new Free Systems Federation. Former Imperial worlds joined voluntarily, drawn by the human approach to interspecies cooperation. The Emperor lived out his days in comfortable confinement on his homeworld, which had also joined the Federation after his removal. The combined, scientific knowledge of 7 species had made progress on treating his people's genetic disorder. He-Jin, now serving as Earth's representative to the Federation Council, stood at the window of her diplomatic vessel, watching stars streak by. She thought of her small research station in the Himalayas, where this had all begun. In the reflection of the viewport, she saw an Imperial diplomatic ship approaching, coming not to demand submission, but to formally request full Federation membership. We adapted, she whispered to herself. All of us.